This is a Farbrengen for Yutes Kislev. This year it's Shabbos, so we can't Farbreng online on the actual day. So we're doing it now. So Yutes Kislev is known in Chabad as Chag HaChagim, the holiday of all holidays. In other words, this is the festival that's most important to Hasidism, to Chabad Hasidism, and all of Hasidism. Out of all the festivals, Chasidic festivals, this one, Yutes Kislev, is the crown, Chag HaChagim. And why is that? That's because, like the Gemara says regarding Rabbi Yossi, Ilav ha-yomer de kogorim, if not for this day, the day of Matan Torah, Kama Yosef Ike B'Shuke. I think it's a Gemara in Saita, I think. How many Yosefs are there on the market? Plenty. So what makes this Yosef special? The Torah. So using that phrase from the Gemara, applying it to Hasidism, there are many holidays. There are many days in which Chasidim celebrate. All Chasidim, different Chasidim at different days. But this day of Yutes Kislev is the Chag HaChagim. This day makes all the other days important. And what happened on this day? So what happened outwardly and what we read about in a history book, even in a Jewish history book, in a Chabad history book, in a Hasidic history book, is that there were people who opposed Chasidim. At the time they were called Misnagdim, opponents. And they succeeded in informing on the Balatanya and others. People think only the Chabad Rebbe sat in jail. It's a mistake. Historically, it's incorrect. For example, the Lechovitcher, Reb Noach of Lechovitch, I believe his name was Noach, he sat in jail too. And he's the father figure of the Slonim Chasidim. So I went over to a grandson of the Slonim Rebbe here in Borough Park, and he's a serious man, a big Talmud Chacham. And I said, why don't you guys celebrate Yutes Kislev? And he looked at me and he says, I don't know. It's a good question. This isn't just about Chabad and the Alter Rebbe. When they, again, I don't know if they imprisoned everyone on the same day, but at the same time. So what was the issue? The issue was that a group of Jews who called themselves Chasidim, who had Rabbis who were students of the Maggid of Mezrich, who was a student of the Holy Baal Shem Tov, created a new way of serving God. Up until then, a Jew was what you would call today an Orthodox Jew, a frum Jew, a religious Jew, and you served Hashem without dancing, without really a lot of singing, without studying about God in the form of Hasidism, using Kabbalistic ideas, even though the Goyin of Vilna, Chevra, do you know that the Goyin of Vilna wrote more Svarim, they say, on Kabbalah than on Gemara, on Nigla. And the Goyin of Vilna writes in his Pirush on Mishlei, the Rebbe always cited this, whoever does not study Torah Sanister, the Torah of the concealed, i.e. Kabbalah, has no right to paskin. Now go tell that to every Rav in Bnei Brak. How could that be? But that's what he writes. It's in Mishlei. Take it out. You don't got to believe anyone. Just look it up. I looked it up once. It's there. Right? So, and that's not Hasidus. That's Kabbalah. So.
Sorry, Rabbi, who said that?
The Vilna Goyin. The Vilna Goyin writes this in his commentary on Mishlei. And wow. I don't remember the citation now, but I did look it up. The Rebbe always cited it to people who gave him, who challenged him on this concept. He said, What do you want?
Yeah.
Your forefather, the Vilna Gaon, writes this, and the Vilna Gaon, what I'm telling you, is he wrote more commentary and svarim on Kabbalah than he did on Gemara. Now again, Chassidus is not Kabbalah. That's very important to know that. It's not Kabbalah. It uses Kabbalistic words and ideas, but it's not Kabbalah. Anyway, let's get to the point. Let's not get lost. So outwardly, this idea of studying Kabbalah, Chassidus, using Kabbalistic idea and wording, this was very foreign, and this happened to come. The advent of Hasidism came just about 50 to 75 years so later, after the Helmenitsky pogroms in Podolia in 1648. And it came also following the Shabtai Tzvi and the Pesach Tzvi and the Frank, the false messiahs. So everyone was very fearful. You know, when I had my zoning issue in Marin County of, allowing a shul in a residential area, church versus state and all of that, right? What the bottom line was is what we call in English xenophobia. You know what xenophobia means? The fear of the unknown. Here's a man with a long beard.
Actually, fear of foreigners.
Right, fear of foreigners, thank you. So, at that time my beard was black, but it was still a long, unraveled, beard and a yarmulke and walking a Shabbos 95 degrees with a hat and a jacket and a tallis in the street to shul. This is foreigners, so they're up to something. The Chasidim, at the time, after the false messiahs and the Helmenitsky pogroms, were suspect. Who are you Martians? Who are you guys? And so you have to put yourself in that time and in that position, and why it created such a fear. Another point is that in the 1760s, early 1700s, actually 1770s, I've told you this, but just to mention again, there was a group of Hasidim known as the Tolk Chasidim, the Chasidim of actually 1770, Tov Kuf Lamed. And they wanted to destroy misnagdism, the approach to Hashem of just the norm, where everything is intellectual and everything's about a piece of Gemara and everything like that. So they did things to make themselves silly. They wanted to show that intelligence is not the seat of God, but rather the heart is. So they went into a grocery store, and they asked for a pound of nails. How much do a pound of nails cost, for example? And the guy looked at him, what, are you out of your mind? This is a grocery store. We sell food here. We don't sell nails. So that was a way of laughing at themselves. They did things to laugh at themselves. You want to say something, Hillel? No? I just thought you were going like this.
Well, I just wondered where that movement came from, like who started it.
Well, okay, so I think that they were an offshoot of Karlin. The Karlin Hasidim seems like even before Chabad were most popular at that time. Because in the interrogation papers, which by the way you could read, because it's been translated into Hebrew from the Russian, we have the interrogation papers of the Baal HaTanya. Did you know that? And in those interrogation papers, they identify him as Karlin. So you think about it, why Karlin? He was Chabad. Because the ones from 1770, went one step further. Again, not what the Rabbi Hagodl, Rabbi Karliner, Shlomo Karliner, they took it to the streets, and they and they again. So I want to be honest. I don't remember now if they were technically Karliner. I don't remember that, but. Hasidism just began. The Maggid passed away in 1772, right? And this is 1770. Baal Shem Tov, passes away in 1745, I think. Yeah. So you're talking. Everything was new. We talk about it today as though you have to put yourself in the shoes of what was going on then. So because of all of this. Chasidim got a bad rap. They would somersault in the streets like wild things, and we have some of that wild stuff going on today in different communities, Hasidic communities, without going into details. Everyone knows that, and it's not just one community. Okay, I could give you a list of 10 different Hasidim and show you and prove to you that they're wild in different ways. For one, it's holding a flag. For the other one, it's putting up Nana Nachman stuff on walls. For a third one, it's twirling the payas and going like this. The fourth one is taking 0 haircuts, and if you don't, you're a shagitz. Everyone has their nuance. Everyone has their nuance. Yeah, and some are more outward with it, so it makes more noise. Right? But Hasidism is not formal. Anyone that tries to formalize Hasidism is making a big mistake. They would say like Slanim or Hasidus is the misnagdish Hasidus within Hasidus, because there's a big formality there. But the truth is, even Slanim or Hasidus is not. It's not formal. It's just it's maybe a little more quiet. But at the end of the day, a chassid is not a formal man. Okay, it doesn't mean you have to be radical.
Rabbi, I thought always the closest thing to Litvaks would be Chabad. There are a lot of similarities.
Yes, that is true. Yes. The closest cultural. I'm going to say it again. The closest cultural similarity is Chabad Hasidim because of their intellectual bent. So instead, they're learning Reb Chaim on the Gemara, and Chabad is learning Tanya and Likutei Torah to understand God's creation. And many other cultures. In fact, I'm glad you mentioned that, Yoni, because I know someone whose father and grandfather came from the city Kurnitz. Kurnitz is in the Ukraine or Russia. Rabbi Yankel Landau, today his grandson is the Rabbi Roshi, one of them in Bnei Brak, right? The Zayda, who passed away at 95. I don't know if any of you still remember him. He was from Kurnitz, and his father and grandfather, they were Lubavitch Chasidim, really authentic Lubavitch Chasidim from Kurnitz. So this fellow whose grandparents also came, and father came from Kurnitz, he told me, his father told him that a Lubavitcher, Chabadnik, was so much, you couldn't tell the difference between a Chabadnik and a Litvak in Kurnitz. They both had full beards. They both spoke with a Russian accent. They both were, frum and everything else. And that's why there were a lot of marriages, intermarriages between the Litvik Misnagdim and Lubavitchers and Chabadniks. I can give you a list now of 10, just 10 off the bat, that were such marriages. Why? Because they lived together, they shopped together, they ate together, they joked together, they worked together, and they argued together. What was their argument? So there's in Nachlaot, where you got, Yerushalayim, there's 2 big shuls there. One's called Batei Rand. I told you that. It's a Sanzer shul. It opened, I think, in 1909. It's a very special shul, very great people. Yerushalayim davened there, and the Kleisenberg Rebbe is there. The Satmar Rebbe visited. Anyway, it's a holy place to say Kapitel Tilim. And right next to it not right next to it, but in the courtyard, it's a courtyard. It's a big building. It's called the Broide Shul. I forget the name of the Rabbi Broide, who was a Litvisher, who came over and had money and he met up a big shul. What was so here the Litvaks davened over there. Rabbi Zalman Meltzer, Rabbi Baron Kotler's father-in-law, for example, I think Shabbos Yom Tov used to daven the Broide Shul, and the Chasidim davened in the Tzanzer Shul. So I asked the Chevra, I visited there 25 years ago. I spent a lot of time over there, and I got to know still some of the older people and spoke to them and heard stories. And so I asked, so what was the difference? He says, everyone lived in peace. On Purim, the Chasidim from the Tzanzer Shul would run into the Broide Shul, and they would scream out, V'yatzmach v'korev Mashiach. Okay? That was the extent of the Chasidim and the Misnagdim in Nachlaot 100 years ago. And that's Sanzer Chasidim who were wearing Streimlich, and Chabad doesn't wear Streimels. That's the Sanzer Chasidim in Yerushalayim, because Yerushalayim, the culture, Yerushalmi culture supersedes anything else.
Rabbi, Chabad used to wear Chasidim. They used to wear Streimlich.
No, not the Rebbes. I'm not talking about the Rebbe. The Rebbes only wore Streimlich in Lubavitch, not outside. The Rashab traveled to Vienna, and here and there he didn't wear a Streimel. He wore a deshikel, a casquette. The Rashab, when he was Rebbe, in Lubavitch he wore Streimel. And his son, the Rayatz, also wore Streimel, even during the lifetime of the Rashab. But Chasidim didn't wear Streimel. In Yerushalayim, everyone wore Streimel because that was the Jerusalem dress code. And Yerushalayim, the Yidden supersede anything else. They're min b'fnei atzmi, a culture for itself. Chasidim, Misnagdim, it's a different world. And that, in a way, is priority. Anyway, we're going off on tangents, and we only have a certain amount of time, so let's get back to the it's interesting stuff, but we got to stay focused. So, outwardly, the reason for the opposition to Chasidim and to Chabad was everything that I said until now. But that was outwardly. Chitzonius. What was the Nekuda Meshutefes inside? What was going on inside the Pnimius? It was about the study of Chassidus. And we all know, all of us here who've been studying Chassidus for 5 years now together and longer, whatever, you see what Chassidus is. It's a whole different approach within Torah. Doesn't contradict anything, but it's a different mahalach. And that really is what the Misnagdim didn't relate to. And I understand that. It's like we didn't hear such a way of teaching and learning until the Baal Shem Tov, the Maggid, came along and the Talmidim. So I do understand. I do understand their concern. And by the way, the Rebbe, because people asked all these questions to the Rebbe and challenged him, the Rebbe said a simple answer. He says, when you're fearful of something and you're suspect of something, we understand that. But there's a result. Look at the bottom line. What was the fear and the concern? That the Chasidim are a cult and they will worship a foreign god, Chas v'sholem, and become not religious and not keep Torah and mitzvahs. So the Rebbe says, it's 300 years later, it's 250 years later, Nech the Sefer, like it says, take the Sefer, take the book, and read and see. The Chasidim from people are the Yerushalayim, on and on and on. So you had a concern, xenophobia, you had reason to doubt and question and ridicule some of the approach, but at the end of the day, Chasidim are big Yerushalayim. And guess what? The Alter Rebbe had a student, the Pinchas of Shklov. Now, Shklov wasn't your Hasidic town. Kislev was inhabited mostly by Misnagdim. It was a real Misnagdish city. Talking about 250 years ago, 200 years ago, in the time, the Balatanya and the Maggid and all that time. Reb Pinchas was a son of Reb Henoch Shklover. He came from, his family name was Shik, Henoch Shik. He was the second in command to the Vilna Gaon, Moshe Myers. You know, there's the president and there's the vice president. The Vilna Gaon was the president, lahavdil, right? And Reb Pinchas was like the vice president. I mean, that's up there. Okay. When he heard that his son, Pinchas, when Reb Henoch Shik of Shklov heard that his son Pinchas became a chassid of the Balatanya, he sat shiva for him kipshutai. He said he was caught in a cult of heresy. That's it. And this was the biggest busha, biggest shame for Reb Henoch. How can you face the Vilna Gaon? How can you face the Talmidim? His son was caught. A few years go by. He doesn't talk to him. They don't hear from each other. He doesn't want to know about his son. He's walking in the park one day, and he sees what looks like his son, Pinchas. And Pinchas, he goes over for whatever reason, or maybe Pinchas went to him. Anyway, they come eye to eye, and the father says, "You're Pinchas?" The man's wearing a long rekel, a frock, with a full beard, probably maybe a stripe, or whatever. No, Chabad. He says, "I thought you joined a cult. I thought you're not religious anymore. I thought you're in a bar drinking and sinning." He says, "My father, I have a Rebbe. His name is Reb Shneir Zalman." Because the father asked him, and the father saw how meticulous he was in his mannerisms and his modesty and his frumkeit, his religiosity. So he said, "Where did you get this?" He says, "I got it from my Rebbe." He says, "Your Rebbe? Your Rebbe, who's supposed to be the guru of heresy, lahavdil, chas v'sholom ha'yulesiyah, he taught you this? I have to meet him. If he could take you and make you into such a person, I have to meet him." So he says, "Father, the Balatanya has a group of Chasidim, a little group with a little shtibala in Shklov, because mostly it's a Misnagdish's place. And he comes once a year, and he says Chasidus, and he fabrengs, and he says, and it's a wonderful Shabbos. And Motzei Shabbos, people go in to see him in Yechidus and private audience with the Alter Rebbe. Come, go." He comes. And he can't believe what he sees. The Chassidishkeit, the warmth, the seriousness, the Kedusha. Motzei Shabbos, he goes into the Balatanya. And he says, "Rebbe, Kableini tachas kinafecha." You guys know a little Hebrew? Accept me. Under your wings. Yaini, turn off your thing, please. Kableini tachas kinafecha. I'm yours. I want to be a chassid. The second in command, under the Vilna Gaon, wants to become a Hasidic Jew. He's so enamored with what he saw Shabbos. He never saw that in Vilna. Steiging on a piece of Gemara is not davening for 3 hours and crying and farbrenging and loving and looking at a Jew as an neshama, as Yisur said, what the Rebbe said earlier. So the Alter Rebbe says to him, I'm paraphrasing, anyone could be a chassid. But to be a chassid, you have to have the following ideology. You have to it has to become part of you. Tit mimenu yoytze Chasidim olam haba. The Shabbos after, I've told you this once, the Shabbos after Shavuos, Parshas Noseh, usually the many people say Pizmonim, they say additional prayers, and it follows the olive days. So for Ois Tes, it says Tit, which literally means a cement, Mimena Yoytze Chasidim, of which Chasidim come out of, kindness. Kindness comes out of that, and for that you merit to Olam Haba. It's a reference to the Torah. The cement of Torah creates piousness, which ultimately leads to the world to come. But the Alter Rebbe touched it in the following way, and share this weekend as you guys go through Yitas Kislev. Tit. Tit also means a dough, a tegel. In Yiddish, the word is teg, not teg. Teg means days. Tegel means dough. Tit also has a meaning, tegel, a dough. Tit, mimenu yoytze Chasidim. Chasidim are formed because of the tegel, because of the dough. Which dough? The dough of the tikkun. The kichale, the little cookie, with the little l'chaim, that you say l'chaim on someone's tikkun, on someone's day. And you fabrein, you say l'chaim, with a little kichale. From that you become a chosid. And then he turns to the Penech Shik, and he said, and you, the Penech, are not made of that tegel, at least not yet. So people ask, what do you mean? The Alter Rebbe didn't want to accept him as a chosid? Of course he did. But he's telling him, hey, to be a chosid, you have to change your ideology. You have to understand that a l'chaim with a tegaleh is just as important as a piece of Gemara. And if you can't accept that and understand and accept that, you're a wonderful yid, and you really are, but you're not a chosid. This is Yitas Kislev. Yitas Kislev is the paradigm shift of our entire approach to life, to Hashem, to life, to family, to everything is, what is the ikar and what is the tafel? What is primary, what is ancillary? So the Alter Rebbe, who was celebrating his day on Yitas Kislev, the Alter Rebbe says that the primary thing of Hasidism is Tit bimenu yoytze Chasidim. That is the primary issue for Hasidic Judaism. And their styles and the formats of what and when, that's all semantics, But in concept, it's the ability to leave the I, the yesh, and find the same holiness in the mundane, in the kichel. And that's an avodah. And it doesn't happen just automatically because I want to be your chassid. We say by Yidden, Chasidim especially, you want to be a chassid? What are you giving for it? What are you doing for it? I want to be a chassid. Of course the door is open to everyone, The door is open always to everyone. But what are you doing to give Hashem and the Hasidic movement and the Baal Shem Tov and the Talmidim, what are you doing in yourself to live that way? And that is Yitas Kislev. And that's why it's the holiday of all holidays, Chag HaChagim. The Rebbe Rashab in 1901 wasn't in Lubavitch for Yitas Kislev, and the Chasidim were shattered. Their Rebbe, Yitas Kislev, wasn't there to fabrein with them and to say a mimer and everything else. So he wrote a letter because he was healing himself. He had to be out of the country, and he wrote a letter, and this letter became kind of the the Bible of Yutas Kislev, since the Rashab, like this morning, a Bnei Brak, a serious Bnei Brak Litvak, who comes from Chabad, Geza, Chabad family, and we always talk. And I mentioned to him, it's Rosh. I asked him, as you see, I have a lot of hair. I said, "Do you think I should take a haircut for Rosh Hashana?" So he looks at me, he's thinking, for Rosh Hashana. I said, "Rosh Hashana is Shabbos, Yutas Kislev," and he laughs because he knows. He says, so then his rejoinder, his response to me is, that only started in Tafrei Samach Beis. He knew right away in 1901 that the Rashab in the letter calls Yutas Kislev Rosh Hashana. So I said to him, it's Rosh Hashana on Shabbos. I think I should take a haircut maybe, right? You're supposed to take your hair off. I have a lot of hair. What's the Nekuda? Why did the Rashab, you think he was playing with words, calling it Rosh Hashana? And Chasidim are serious people, intelligent people. The Rabbeim are surely intelligent. And what's the Nekuda? The Nekuda is that this is a Rosh Hashana. The nerve center comes from the brain. Yutas Kislev is the brain. So Chevra, it's a short farbrengen that we made. I'm sure you're having more farbrengens. Moshe, I think, told me Rabbi Uri Kaplun is coming. I don't know, for Shabbos or just he's coming for Shabbos or just coming for Motzei Shabbos.
He's coming Motzei Shabbos.
Motzei Shabbos. But Shabbos itself, Moshe, Shabbos itself is Yutas Kislev. I called some people. They gave some money, and people gave some. A guy gave me a bottle of Crown Royal with a wurst, a salami this morning. He says, I want you to use it for Yutas Kislev. So it's Thursday, Friday. You got to prepare yourself. Put together a farbrengen, a kiddush, even you guys yourselves. And I'm not going home Shabbos. I told my wife, this Shabbos I'm in shul. I mean, it's a short Shabbos, 4 o'clock is mincha. But who's going home? Yutas Kislev.
Yeah.
So
Rabbi Faro is doing you're doing a big event, Rabbi Faro.
Okay, well, be there and don't let him go home. Don't let him go home. It's Yutas Kislev. You stay in shul, you learn, you farbreng, you dance, you say l'chaim, and it's once a year. It's all right. Your wife won't kick you out of the house. Don't worry. So Chevra, l'chaim to everybody, and the Rebbe should help Taka that the Balatanya, the Alter Rebbe, and everyone else should bring brachas. Yaini, do me a favor. Mute yourself.
Baruch says hi. By the way, Rabbi, Baruch says hi to everybody.
Baruch who? Baruch Tenenbaum?
No, Baruch,
Oh.
Baruch. What's his last name?
Oh, I forget. I know. Baruch. Yeah, I haven't seen him in a long time. Anyway, Yutas Kislev is a day. Say l'chaim, a little wine, a little water, whatever. Say l'chaim to the Alter Rebbe, to the Magid. It's the Magid's Yortzeit, the Holy Magid. It's a day for connection. And the Rabbeim say that on such a day, when you by learning some of their Torah, open a Tanya, open a look at the Torah, some Sefer, the Balatanya of the Magid, learn a Vart, share a Vart, a story. It's like bringing a pigeon to the Rebbe. Could you imagine? We're going into the Alter Rebbe's room and we're giving him a note, a petition note. Help myself and my family, my children, my grandchildren, especially now, the situation at Eretz Yisrael. This is the day. So take it, make of it. It's what you make of it. Okay, Yoini, you wanted to say something? Please.
Yes, so I wanted to say two things. First of all, now I understand what the source of the kichel and the herring is. This is the source of the kichel.
Right.
Second of all, is make sure this Shabbos you have some kichel if that's the source.
Okay, Moshe, you better make sure that there's some kichel in Eish Kodesh and whatever else. Love you all. See you all on Monday. We'll learn chapter 39 in Tanya. Sei gesund. Have a great Shabbos. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Take care. Good Shabbos. Good Yontif.